Welcome back to Crime Documentary Files. Today we're going to discuss a case that took place in Palembang, Indonesia. Our main subject is Vera Octaria, a young woman who lived with her family in Ulu, Seberang Ulu 2 district, Palembang, South Sumatra, Indonesia. She lived with her mother and siblings while her father was working in Malaysia. In 2014, while Vera was in 9th grade, she met and became close with Derry, an 11th grade student at the time. As they developed feelings for each other, they began dating that same year. However, despite their houses being only 500 feet apart, they initially kept their relationship a secret. Their relationship was just like any other young couples. In 2015, after a year of dating, Vera's mother and family finally found out about their secret relationship. Since Derry seemed like a good young man, Vera's mother did not object to their relationship. From that point on, Derry started visiting Vera's house regularly and was accepted by her family. To Vera's mother, Derry appeared to be a polite and well-mannered young man, which made her trust him and allow him to take Vera out on dates. Likewise, Derry also introduced Vera to his parents, and even his extended family, including his uncles, knew her as his girlfriend. At the time, Derry seemed to be serious about his relationship with Vera. However, as time passed, his love turned into an obsession. He started developing an intense fear of losing Vera, or that someone else might take her away from him. This led to excessive jealousy, overprotectiveness, and even possessiveness, resulting in frequent arguments, breakups, and reconciliations. By 2017, they had a major argument that led to a breakup when Derry accused Vera of hiding something on her phone's memory card, suspecting it contained something related to another man. During their breakup, Derry briefly dated a schoolmate named Shirley. However, he couldn't move on from Vera, so he ended things with Shirley and got back together with Vera. But even after rekindling their relationship, Derry's possessiveness persisted. From then on, their relationship became filled with endless fights, all fueled by his jealousy. Things took a dark turn when one of their fights escalated at Vera's home. At the time, Vera was with two friends when Derry suddenly barged in, furious. The argument got physical, and in the heat of the moment, Derry grabbed a pillow and pressed it against Vera's face. Fortunately, her friends witnessed everything and intervened just in time to stop him. Initially, Vera's mother was unaware of this incident because she was not home at the time. However, by May 2018, she finally discovered the disturbing truth when she witnessed a horrifying argument between Vera and Derry at their home. That day, Vera's mother was visiting a neighbor when she suddenly heard Vera screaming from their house. Alarmed, she rushed back home and found Vera and Derry in the middle of a heated fight. In a desperate attempt to defend herself, Vera was biting and pulling Derry's hair while Derry furiously accused her of cheating, all because he saw a picture of another guy on her phone. When Vera's mother caught them fighting, Derry immediately fled the scene. It was only then that Vera finally opened up to her mother about her fears and revealed Derry's true nature. After hearing the full story, Vera's mother was left completely shocked. From that point on, Vera's mother insisted that her daughter stay away from Derry. At first, Vera listened to her mother's advice and tried to keep her distance, but Derry kept showing up at their house to apologize. This made Vera's mother increasingly worried. So, when Vera graduated from high school, her mother encouraged her to move to Bengkulu for college, both to continue her education and to distance herself from Derry. Vera agreed and moved to Bengkulu, where she studied nursing and lived with her older sister. Meanwhile, Derry had become occupied with applying for the military. However, Derry wasn't ready to let go. After learning that Vera was now living and studying in Bengkulu, he traveled all the way there to see her. At first, Vera's sister refused to let them meet, but seeing how far Derry had come, she eventually allowed them to see each other briefly. After that, Derry returned to Palembang. While Vera focused on her studies in Bengkulu, something unexpected happened. For unknown reasons, in November 2018, she suddenly decided to drop out of school and move back home to Palembang. Once back in Palembang, Vera needed a job, so she applied to work as a cashier at a nearby Indomaret store. When Derry found out Vera had returned, he immediately contacted her to apologize once again. This time, Vera forgave him, and they secretly rekindled their relationship without her mother knowing. By this point, Derry had officially passed his military entrance exams. His family took him to enlist in the military, and he even invited Vera to join them as they dropped him off at Dodik Sakata Rindam II Sriwijaya Military Training School in Lahat, about 4 hours from Palembang. 5 months later, after completing his military training, Derry was officially commissioned in April 2019. A few days after the commissioning ceremony, Derry was upset because Vera didn't attend. Frustrated, he requested a few days of leave and traveled back to Palembang just to see her. However, when he arrived at Vera's house, he only found her mother. Since she no longer approved of their relationship, Vera's mother refused to let him see Vera and kicked him out, leaving Derry heartbroken. The next day, on April 19th, before returning to his unit, Derry bought an Oppo smartphone as a gift for Vera, intending to replace her old phone, which couldn't make video calls. However, when they met again, Vera refused to accept the gift, forcing Derry to take the phone back with him. While Vera was starting to focus on her job and moving on from the relationship, Derry was struggling to let go. Throughout his military training, he couldn't concentrate, as his mind was constantly consumed by thoughts of Vera. Over time, his sadness turned into anger, as he became convinced that Vera no longer loved him and had found someone else. With this belief, Derry started plotting to escape from his unit, determined to confront Vera and check her phone to see if she was involved with another man. On the night of May 3rd, 2019, at 9 p.m., Derry sneaked out of his unit wearing his military uniform. He climbed over the back fence and slipped through the forest to reach a nearby residential area. Once there, he stole a set of clothes from someone's laundry line, changed into civilian clothes, and stuffed his military uniform into a plastic bag he had prepared beforehand. Since it was already late at night, Derry stopped by a local resident's house and asked for shelter, pretending to be a lost worker. Believing his story, the homeowner allowed him to stay overnight. The next morning, Derry left the family's house and took a bus to Palembang. Once he arrived, he contacted a friend to help him find a rental room. They managed to find a small rental unit on the outskirts of Palembang, and Derry paid 1 month's rent up front, planning to stay there temporarily while figuring out how to meet Vera. Since the room was completely empty, Derry called his ex-girlfriend Shirley, asking her to bring him some blankets and pillows. Shirley had no idea that Derry had deserted the military, so she agreed to help and even stayed in the room to keep watch for him. While there, Derry confessed everything to Shirley. He had run away from his military unit because he was devastated about Vera and needed to see her to clarify their relationship. He also wanted to check if Vera was seeing someone else. Upon learning that Derry was a military deserter, Shirley chose to stay and help him, since Derry didn't dare to go outside to buy anything. Meanwhile, at Dodik the military training unit where Derry was stationed, officials began searching for him after realizing he was missing. They even went to his parents' house to inform them that their son had deserted. His family was completely confused, having no idea where Derry had gone. After 3 days of hiding in the rental unit, on May 7th, 2019, Tuesday, Derry finally felt safe enough to go outside. He texted Vera, asking her to meet him in front of Kertapati station in Palembang. Vera agreed and said she would meet him at 10:30 p.m. after her work shift. At 10 p.m., Derry left the rental unit, leaving Shirley behind alone. When he arrived at Kertapati station, Vera was already waiting for him, still wearing her Indomaret uniform and riding her Honda Beat motorcycle. Upon meeting, Derry lied to Vera, telling her that he had taken a leave of absence and traveled to Palembang by train, which was why he wanted to meet her at the station. They then rode Vera's motorcycle to Ampera Bridge. However, Derry wanted to spend more time with Vera, so he pressured her to go with him that night to his aunt's house in Sungai Lilin. At first, Vera refused, saying it was too late and that Sungai Lilin was about a 3-hour ride away. However, Derry insisted and eventually forced her to agree. In reality, this was just an excuse. Derry had already made up his mind. If he found out that Vera was seeing someone else, he planned to kill her that very night in Sungai Lilin, far away from her family and home. Unaware of his true intentions, Vera innocently thought they were really going to his aunt's house, so she agreed to go. At around 1 a.m., after traveling halfway, they stopped in Batung for a late-night meal at a roadside stall. After eating, Vera became exhausted and asked to go back home. However, Derry refused, telling her that they were already close to his aunt's house. They continued riding for another 30 minutes. As the night dragged on, Vera became increasingly frustrated, complaining that they had been riding for too long without reaching the house. She once again asked to return home, but Derry firmly refused, repeating, "We're almost there." When they finally reached Sungai Lilin, Derry suddenly claimed that he forgot the way to his aunt's house. Instead, he suggested staying the night at a local inn, saying that riding all the way back to Palembang was too far. At first, Vera refused, but since she was already too tired, she reluctantly agreed, thinking they would only rest for a short while. Derry then found a motel that charged 150,000 rupiah per night. After checking in, Vera was completely exhausted and just wanted to sleep. However, Derry pressured her into intimacy, leading to an argument. By around 3 a.m., Vera finally managed to sleep. At 5 a.m., Derry woke up and took Vera's phone from under her pillow. When he tried to unlock it, he realized he couldn't get in. Vera had changed her password, no longer using their old anniversary date as before. This infuriated Derry. In a fit of rage, Derry woke Vera up and demanded to know why she had changed her phone password, accusing her of being involved with another man. He then grabbed her by the hair and slammed her head against the wall repeatedly until she was too weak to fight back. After that, Derry strangled her and smothered her face with a pillow until she stopped breathing. Once Vera was dead, Derry began thinking about how to dispose of her body. Fearing that the motel staff might get suspicious if he carried out the body in one piece, he decided to dismember her into smaller parts so he could fit them into a backpack. With this plan in mind, Derry went outside and found a small hacksaw in the motel's storage area. He dragged Vera's body into the bathroom and started the gruesome task. However, midway through, the saw broke. Now in a state of panic, Derry rode Vera's motorcycle to his uncle's house nearby. There, he confessed to his uncle that he had killed Vera and begged for help disposing of her body, which was still in the motel. Horrified, his uncle refused to help. Frustrated, Derry returned to the motel, but on the way, he stopped at a market in Sungai Lilin and bought a new hacksaw for 50,000 rupiah. Back at the motel, Derry extended his stay for another day and continued his gruesome work in the bathroom with the new saw. However, the second saw also broke. Feeling desperate, Derry called his uncle again, pleading with him to buy another saw and bring it to the motel. But his uncle, terrified, refused once again. With no other option, Derry went out and bought a large backpack from a bag store in Sungai Lilin, thinking it would be big enough to fit Vera's body. After returning to the motel, he attempted to stuff the body into the backpack, but it was too small. Frustrated, he went back to the store and exchanged it for a larger backpack, also purchasing a medium-sized suitcase. Once back in the motel room, he tried to fit the body into both the backpack and the suitcase, but it still wouldn't fit. So, he went out yet again and bought an even bigger suitcase. However, even with the largest suitcase, the body still wouldn't fit. Now in a full-blown panic, Derry took all of Vera's belongings, stuffed them into the backpack, and dumped them into a nearby river. After that, he stopped at a hardware store and bought another hacksaw, an axe, and a utility knife, intending to finish dismembering Vera's body in the motel bathroom so it could fit into the suitcase. However, on his way back to the motel, Derry suddenly changed his mind and decided to visit his uncle once again, pleading for help. But this time, his uncle stood firm and refused to assist him in any way. Seeing no way out, his uncle decided to call a friend named Imam, someone who also knew Derry, hoping that Imam could come over and help handle the situation, as the uncle had no idea what to do about Derry's persistent pleas for help. That afternoon, Imam arrived, and Derry told him everything, begging for his help to get rid of the body. However, Imam was too scared to be involved, and only suggested that Derry should burn the body to destroy the evidence. Later, Derry left Vera's motorcycle at his uncle's house and took a 3-wheeled motor taxi back to the motel. On the way, he stopped at a roadside shop to buy gasoline and insect repellent coils. At this moment, Derry suddenly had a new idea. He would burn Vera's body inside the motel room and stage it as an accidental fire caused by the insect repellent coils. Back at the motel, Derry tore open the mattress to remove the cotton inside, believing it would catch fire more easily. He placed Vera's body on the mattress, piled flammable materials on top, and then poured gasoline over it. However, just as he was about to ignite the fire, he changed his mind, fearing the consequences of setting the entire room ablaze. He then poured water over the mattress until it was completely soaked. But after that, he panicked again, realizing he had no other plan to dispose of the body besides burning it. With no better idea, at around 8 p.m., Derry reverted to his original plan. He lit the insect repellent coils and placed them near the mattress, hoping the mattress would catch fire on its own. Then, he quickly left the motel, sneaking away and heading straight to the bus terminal, planning to flee to Java Island, specifically Serang, Banten. However, after he left, the mattress never caught fire because he had soaked it earlier. Once Derry arrived in Serang, he began using a fake identity, hoping to escape the crime he had committed. He thought it would be that easy. Meanwhile, back in Palembang, as Vera never returned home and couldn't be reached, her worried family reported her missing to the Palembang police. The police immediately launched a search. At the same time, at the motel, one day after Derry fled, the staff grew suspicious because the guest in room 6 had not checked out. Initially, they waited for the guest to return the key, but by midday, as the cleaning staff was sweeping near room 6, they began to notice a foul odor. At first, they thought the smell was coming from a nearby trash bin, so they cleaned the area. However, the odor remained. Growing suspicious, the staff suspected the smell was coming from room 6, so they knocked on the door, intending to ask if there was any trash to be taken out, but no one answered. The staff reported this to the front desk, where the receptionists had already been suspicious because the guest in room 6 hadn't checked out, and now there was a complaint about a bad smell. Fearing something was wrong but hesitant to break in, they decided to contact the neighborhood chief. When the neighborhood chief and local security had arrived, they finally dared to break the door open. As soon as the door was opened, the foul odor intensified, and they were met with a horrifying scene. The room was in complete disarray, with a pile of belongings stacked on the bed. But what truly shocked and nauseated them was what lay beneath the pile, the dismembered body of a woman with her hand severed. They immediately called the police. The police arrived quickly and began their investigation. The victim's body was transported to Bayangkara Hospital in Palembang for an autopsy. At first, they couldn't identify the victim, as no identification documents were found at the scene. However, since a missing person report for Vera had been filed at the Palembang police station, the investigators started connecting the two cases. After a thorough investigation, they confirmed that the victim was indeed Vera, leaving her family devastated and in shock over what had happened to their daughter. The police conducted an investigation at the motel crime scene. The motel staff testified that the guest in room 6 was a couple, a man and a woman. After describing the man's features, Vera's family immediately suspected it was Derry, the recently commissioned soldier who had repeatedly tried to meet Vera. Their suspicions grew stronger upon learning that Derry had deserted his military unit days earlier and was already being hunted by the army. Additionally, Vera's motorcycle was found at the home of Derry's uncle and aunt, who confirmed his actions. A special task force was immediately formed to track down Derry, and his photos were circulated as a wanted suspect. Initially, the manhunt lasted about 2 weeks without success. However, weeks later, on June 12th, Derry's aunt contacted the police, stating that Derry had called her to confide in her. Using this information, investigators traced the phone signal, leading them to a location in Serang, Banten. They immediately launched a raid and finally found Derry hiding in an Islamic religious school, using a fake identity as Ojibin Samsuri. His arrest shocked everyone at the school, as they realized the man they had taken in as a religious student was actually a fugitive from Palembang. Derry was then brought back to Palembang for interrogation and further investigation. Unable to hide the truth any longer, he quickly confessed to everything. During his trial at the Palembang Military Court in August 2019, Derry revealed that he had asked his uncle for help, but was refused. He also admitted to seeking advice from Imam, a friend of his uncle. However, upon investigating Imam, authorities discovered that he had drowned in the Dawas River in Pinang Banjar village, Sungai Lilin, over a month earlier. Finally, on September 26, 2019, Derry was sentenced to life in prison and dishonorably discharged from the military. In court, he could only cry and express regret for his actions, but it was far too late. Vera was laid to rest at Talaga Suidak Cemetery in the Palju area of Palembang, mourned by her family, friends, and the local community. Although Vera is gone, her tragic story serves as a lesson for everyone. To all young women, please be extremely cautious if you have a boyfriend who shows possessiveness and violent tendencies. These are red flags for potential danger. And for those who feel overly possessive, excessively jealous, or find themselves consumed by anger over imagined scenarios, leading to constant emotional distress and uncontrollable rage, seek professional help. Possessiveness is a psychological disorder that requires treatment by experts. Next, we will discuss a criminal case that took place recently in 2024 in the island nation of Indonesia. The case revolves around Supriyanto, a man who lived in Setran village, Slogohimo district, Wonogiri Regency, Central Java. He grew up with his parents, but due to financial difficulties, he was forced to drop out of middle school. From a young age, he worked various manual labor jobs in his village to make a living. His work was inconsistent, as he relied entirely on temporary job offers. People hired him to fix leaking roofs, repair water pumps, clean gardens, and do other odd jobs, whatever work was available. At 19 years old, despite being very young, Supriyanto decided to get married. After the wedding, he and his wife moved into a house gifted by his parents, still in Setran village. Their life carried on, and they eventually had 2 children. As his family grew, so did the household expenses, and that was when financial problems began to take over. Supriyanto was still just a laborer without a steady job, only earning money when he was hired. Realizing that his income was not enough to support his family, he tried to find a way to earn extra money. He took a job as a parking attendant at a tourist site in Wonogiri, hoping to increase his earnings. However, no matter how hard he worked, his family's financial situation didn't improve. Since money problems were at the root of everything, combined with Supriyanto's hot-tempered and easily irritated personality, his marriage became more strained. He and his wife argued frequently, neither willing to back down. At the same time, in 2009, Supriyanto faced another issue. He had pawned his phone for 500,000 rupiah, but when the deadline arrived, he was unable to gather enough money to reclaim it. Desperate for 500,000 rupiah immediately, Supriyanto began brainstorming ways to get quick cash. In his moment of desperation, he came up with a bold plan, stealing a motorcycle from a passerby. He teamed up with a fellow parking attendant named Surono, and together, they plotted to ambush a victim along a deserted road in Dono Loyo forest. This was a secluded area that Supriyanto knew well, a lonely road with very little traffic, but often frequented by couples looking for privacy. In May 2009, their plan was put into action. Supriyanto and Surono hid along the empty road, waiting for a victim to pass by. Eventually, a couple riding a motorcycle approached, and they became the targets. But the 2 men didn't just rob them, they brutally attacked them. They snatched all their valuables, including a Yamaha Mio motorcycle, 2 cell phones, 2 wallets, and a gold ring belonging to the victim. After the robbery, the attackers fled, leaving the couple lying on the roadside, severely injured from multiple sickle slashes. A few hours later, Local residents passing by discovered the couple lying motionless, their bodies covered in wounds along the side of the road. Without hesitation, they rushed the victims to the hospital. Unfortunately, one of them succumbed to their injuries and passed away immediately upon arrival. The other victim miraculously survived but remained in critical condition. Shortly after, the police launched an investigation, which eventually led to the arrest of Supriyanto and Surono. After a lengthy investigation, the case was brought to trial in October 2009. The court's verdict: Supriyanto was sentenced to 15 years in prison, while Surono received a 10-year sentence. Both were incarcerated at Sragen Prison, located in Sragen Regency, Central Java. Following Supriyanto's arrest, his wife, devastated and ashamed to learn that her husband was a ruthless robber, could no longer endure the humiliation and decided to divorce him. This, in fact, was the real shock for Supriyanto. He lost everything: his family, his freedom, and his future. During his years behind bars, he was consumed by regret. While in prison, Supriyanto showed signs of repentance. He began to delve into religion, prayed diligently, and even took on the role of an imam, leading communal prayers among inmates. Even prison officials acknowledged his positive changes in behavior and attitude. After serving approximately 11 years, in 2020, the Indonesian government introduced a sentence reduction and social reintegration program for inmates with good conduct. Under this program, prisoners who had served more than half of their sentence and demonstrated good behavior were granted early release and allowed to return home to reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission in prisons. Thanks to this initiative, Supriyanto, who was deemed rehabilitated and had served more than half of his sentence, was released in 2020. After being released, he immediately returned to his hometown, Setran village, in the Wonogiri region. He lived alone in a separate house, away from his parents and family. Upon regaining his freedom, Supriyanto resumed working as a day laborer, taking any available job to make a living. Not long after, also in 2020, Supriyanto met a woman and successfully won her heart. They eventually got married within the same year. However, just a few months into the marriage, his new wife quickly filed for divorce. Her reason was unsurprising. She could not tolerate Supriyanto's violent temper. In fact, she lived in constant fear, as Supriyanto frequently threatened to set her on fire using gasoline. Terrified, she decided to leave the marriage immediately. Following his divorce, Supriyanto returned to his solitary life, continuing to work as a freelance laborer, still a single man living in isolation in his home. Meanwhile, he became involved in a sports organization, mainly focusing on martial arts. It turned out that Supriyanto had a background in martial arts and was highly skilled in pencak silat, a traditional Indonesian fighting style. Because of his expertise, he quickly gained recognition and trust, eventually being appointed as the security officer of the organization. Not only that, Supriyanto also became a pencak silat instructor, training a group of students. This was truly a positive turning point in his life. Through this organization, Supriyanto met a woman named Kartika Margaret Dia Pratiwi, commonly known as Kartika, who was also a member of the group. Kartika was not only an active member but also worked as an employee at a private bank in Slogohimo, Wonogiri. Additionally, Kartika had been previously married but was now a single mother, living with her parents in Randusari village, Wonogiri, which was about a 15-minute drive from Supriyanto's home. After getting to know each other, the two developed romantic feelings, and by 2021, they officially started dating. At that time, Supriyanto frequently visited Kartika's house, and likewise, Kartika often visited Supriyanto's home. Both families were aware of their relationship and did not oppose it. However, after a few years of dating, in March 2024, an unexpected event took place. Kartika's ex-husband suddenly contacted her, asking to reconcile. Kartika, who had never fully moved on from her ex-husband, immediately agreed. Not only that, she planned to meet Supriyanto to officially end their relationship, and from this moment, everything began. On March 26, 2024, a Tuesday, Kartika went to work as usual at a private bank in the area. She had already planned that after her shift, she would go to Supriyanto's house to talk about their relationship. At around 5 p.m. after work, Kartika headed straight to Supriyanto's house. At that time, Supriyanto was home alone, standing in the kitchen. There, Kartika explained everything. Her ex-husband had asked to get back together, and she also wanted to end things with Supriyanto. Upon hearing this, Supriyanto was in complete shock. His initial disbelief quickly turned into rage, and the two began arguing right in the kitchen. In the heat of the moment, Kartika threw a cup of hot coffee directly at Supriyanto. This sent Supriyanto into a blind fury. Losing all control, he grabbed a nearby towel and pressed it tightly over Kartika's mouth. He held it firmly for about 8 minutes, completely cutting off her air supply. Kartika's body convulsed violently before she finally collapsed onto the floor, taking her last breath right there in the kitchen. Once he realized Kartika was dead, Supriyanto panicked. At that moment, there was no one else in the house, and no one knew what had just happened. Overcome with fear, Supriyanto started thinking about how to dispose of the body and erase all traces of his crime. After carefully considering his options, he decided to dig 2 holes in the backyard. Then, he dragged Kartika's body outside and placed it in one of the holes. He poured gasoline over her remains and set the body on fire using old tires, hoping to completely destroy the evidence. Once the body was nearly reduced to ashes, he hurriedly transferred what was left into the second hole and buried her completely. After finishing, he covered both holes, disguising the area with weeds and shrubs, making the ground look completely untouched. With everything done, Supriyanto resumed his normal activities, confident that no one would ever find out what had happened. However, that very night, Kartika's family grew worried. They realized that she hadn't come home, something that had never happened before. To make matters worse, she was completely unreachable. Her phone was disconnected. Fearing something terrible had happened, her family immediately went to the bank where Kartika worked to look for clues, but they found nothing. As their worry intensified, Kartika's family decided to report her disappearance to the Slogohimo Police Department. Upon receiving the report, police launched an investigation and officially listed Kartika as a missing person. They began interviewing people close to her, and Supriyanto's name immediately stood out. Police went to Supriyanto's house to inform him that Kartika had been reported missing. There, Supriyanto acted surprised and completely denied knowing anything about her disappearance. However, police did not easily believe his statement. Their suspicion grew even stronger when Kartika's family also spoke up, firmly believing that Supriyanto was involved in her disappearance. Not just because he was Kartika's boyfriend, but also because her family was well aware of his dark past, a former convict who had already served time for a serious crime. Since Supriyanto had a prior conviction for murder and was known for his short temper and violent tendencies, police became increasingly convinced that he was involved in Kartika's disappearance. From that point, they began secretly monitoring his movements, while also questioning neighbors to gather any possible leads. And this is when a crucial witness statement emerged. One of Supriyanto's neighbors revealed that on March 26th, the day Kartika went missing, he had seen a young woman enter Supriyanto's house in the afternoon. However, he never saw her leave. This testimony solidified the police's suspicion. Kartika had entered Supriyanto's house but never came out. Immediately, police returned to Supriyanto's home, this time with a warrant to search the entire property. They deployed K9 units and conducted a thorough examination of every inch of the premises, and within a short time, the police dogs alerted them to something suspicious, a particular spot in the backyard. Detectives focused their investigation on that area. After digging deeper, they made a horrifying discovery: the remains of a burial site. As they dug further, they uncovered a charred skeleton. The body had been completely burned, leaving nothing but blackened bones. With this gruesome discovery, police immediately arrested Supriyanto. The remains were sent to a hospital for forensic examination, where DNA testing was conducted to confirm the identity. And after thorough testing, the results were clear. The body belonged to Kartika. Kartika's family was devastated, collapsing in grief, unable to believe that she had been murdered so brutally. Without wasting time, police interrogated Supriyanto. And as always, the truth cannot be hidden forever. With all the evidence stacked against him, Supriyanto had no way out. He was forced to confess everything. He was officially charged with premeditated murder. Under the law, he could face a maximum sentence of 15 years in prison. The reason? He couldn't accept the fact that his girlfriend wanted to break up, so in a fit of rage, he murdered her in cold blood. However, his sentencing has not yet been finalized, as this is still an ongoing case. Hopefully, he will receive the harshest punishment possible, because he is not just a murderer, he is a repeat offender. People like Supriyanto are incredibly dangerous. If he receives a light sentence, there is a high chance he will reoffend once he is released. Studies have shown that individuals who have committed murder before are significantly more likely to kill again. For them, taking a life is no longer a terrifying act. It's simply something they've done before and can do again. That is why individuals like Supriyanto should be permanently removed from society. And more importantly, this case should serve as a warning to everyone. If you have a partner who is short-tempered, violent, or controlling, leave them immediately. Because someone like that is far more terrifying than any ghost or monster could ever be.